AfriForum failed in its bid to have the struggle song Kill the Boer declared hate speech. The Equality Court ruled in favor of the economic freedom fighters and its leadership and dismissed the matter with cost. Now, the lobby group had previously argued that the singing of the song incites violence and promotes farm killings. To unpack this further, we are joined by Apartheid activist Dr. Trevor Ngwane, Azanian people's organizations, Nelvis, Qekema, as well as the AfriForum Head of Policy and Action, Ernst. You're a part of the conversation tonight by sending us your thoughts on 072 110 5584, or you can tweet us tonight at Newzroom 405. Dr. Nelvis, good evening, and thank you very much for your time and for being with us here in the studio. And gentlemen, joining us also online, Dr. Ngwane and Ernst, good to have you with us. And thank you very much for your time. So for fairness in the processes, so as part of the opening remarks, I would like to give you all 2 minutes each to get the conversation going. So I will make sure that you all get equal time, and don't feel otherwise when I do jump in and I cut you. It's because your 2 minutes is up and it's time for the other speaker to be allowed the podium as well. So let's begin with yourself then, Ernst. Coming from the judgment, yet again, the judge had reiterated, let's repeat what was said on Friday, that the words do not in themselves incite violence or are not meant for literal engagement. To be exact, Judge Mulahlegi found that the chant of the song was not intended to be taken seriously, that the reference to Boer did not literally refer to white or Afrikaans people, and that it did not incite hatred towards white people generally. Therefore, the song was not hate speech. Some are arguing as well, Ernst, that struggle songs by themselves, these chants, are the most democratic processes that exist in protest and social movement. What is your position still on this?
Well, there's a good or a striking cartoon that was drawn actually a few years ago on this topic with two farm murderers running out of a house, and you can see the victim lying dead inside the house, and then over the radio there's a news broadcast that says ANC says kill the boer is just a metaphor. And then the one farm murderer carrying a panga in his one hand turns to the other farm murderer and asks, what is a metaphor? So I think there are two issues here. If the topic is hate speech, and does this particular song encourage or incite farm murders, there are two things to be said which might sound contradictory, but you have to see them in context. The one is it does incite farm murders. There's no doubt about that. There's been farm murderers, people who have been convicted of having murdered farmers, who have said that they were influenced by this song. And there's the slogan "Kill the Boer" and "Kill the Farmer" has been used during farm attacks and during farm murders. In one case, it was even written on the wall in several cases, it was written on the walls of the farmhouse. In one case, even with the blood of the victims. So that on the one hand. But then on the other hand, the part which might sound contradictory is to prove that this slogan is hate speech. You don't need to prove that it actually leads to people being murdered as a result thereof, because that's not the test for hate speech. The test for hate speech is a group of people targeted based on the prohibited grounds according to the Act, and could the words reasonably be construed to demonstrate an intention to propagate hatred or to cause harm. So there's nothing about proving a causal link that is required, and that's one of the reasons why we believe the judgment was wrong, and why we believe there's a very good chance that we will overturn this judgment on appeal.
Let's jump in there and allow Dr. Trevor Ngwane to come in. Dr. Ngwane, why do people resort to a song during struggle protests, in moments of struggle?
Yeah, thank you, Chavo. You know, struggle is mass struggling. It involves many people. And then when people are marching, when people are singing, it's a very democratic process in the sense that everyone can participate, whether rich or poor, whether a senior leader or part of the rank and file. Struggle songs, you know, if we look at them with perspective, they are part of our cultural heritage. You know, it's what happened in the past during a difficult time, especially for black people. Although I must emphasize that white people also are having a hard time because the government was more or less authoritarian. So even if you are white and did not agree, they would also send you to jail. So I think that struggle songs should be approached in that way. It's a pity that when we consider our cultural heritage, we have to resort to the courts. I think these are better in the classroom, in the academic lecture theater by historians. And then also they should be studied in the spirit of emancipation, building a better society, rather than perhaps I don't want to accuse the AfriForum of anything, but I do feel that maybe it smacks of trying to defend, you know, what happened in the past or ill-gotten privileges.
Nelvis, let's bring you in here as well as part of your opening remarks. I mean, explore for us in the history and the culture of the Azanian people's movement, the struggle songs around the idea of race, politics, and culture.
Thabo, it is a tragedy of democracy that as black people we should be sitting here explaining ourselves to racists and trying to ask for permission to sing our songs, struggle songs, asking for permissions to sing songs when we're fighting to reclaim our land, repossess our land, repossess our farms, repossess our economy, repossess everything that belongs to us. And the people who came here with nothing, absolutely nothing, they are now telling us what to do and what not to do. Steve Biko says they do not only kick us, but they also control and teach us how to respond to the kick. Now, revolutionary songs in themselves, you know, are a love speech. They are a love speech. It is us black people expressing our love. It is us, for us black people, expressing our love for our land, for our culture, for our history. We sing as black people when we are happy. We sing when we are sad. We sing when somebody has died. We sing when we do everything and anything, and we are not going to ask for permission to do the struggle. We will wage it.
Ernst, let's come back to you then. The one thing that you raised, for example, at those two incidences, and I'm sure you've got a number as well that you've got reported to you by farmers in terms of farm killings. But what has come out even in the court with that ruling that I just read is that that cannot be used in general terms. So you're overgeneralizing this notion of marrying the song to the farm killings.
Well, the question then, if that's the problem, the question then is, how many times should we prove a link, or how many farmers should be murdered as a result of this song where there is direct evidence before we concede and say, well, maybe no, this is a problem. So if I give one example, that's not enough. If I give two, that's not enough. If I give 10, that's not enough. Should I give 100 examples? Will we then say it's enough? That we should stop singing this song. It reminds very much, I know there's this thing in public debates that everyone always compares his opponent to Adolf Hitler, but there's this, it reminds very much of what happened in Nazi Germany in the run-up to the Second World War, where the Nazis were in power, they were the majority, they made laws claiming that they need to protect the majority against this rich minority that is oppressing them, which were the Jews. They started making slogans about the Jews. They started comparing them to animals. They started romanticizing violence towards them. They started publicly talking about killing them. And then they started killing them. People started taking this seriously. Now, we can say this is a metaphor, and I'm sure a lot of people who actually sing this song mean it as a metaphor. They don't mean it literally. But that does not change the reality, which is that while people are singing, kill the boer, kill the farmer, while people are singing, shoot to kill, farmers are actually being murdered, and the slogan is actually being used during farm murders. That's the reality. So to try to disconnect these two realities is to try to disconnect the song from reality. So we can have a theoretical, philosophical debate about the meaning of struggle songs, but that does not detract from reality, which is there for everyone to see.
Does this form of singing invite people to action that is deadly, that is destructive?
Well, there have been such cases. I testified about...
I'm putting that to Datenarias here in the studio. Go for it.
Nelvis, you mean?
Oh, Nelvis, I beg your pardon. Oh.
I look better than Nelvis. Thank you. No. It's absolute nonsense. You know, I mean, the court itself has said. In fact, the court dismissed all the so-called witnesses of the AfriForum, and the court ruled that it could find no direct link between the singing of the song and the killing of the white farmers themselves. Yeah. So there is.
What about the instances where it was written on the wall with blood? What about the instances where it was clearly being chanted at the time those farmers were being killed, as Ernst is telling us tonight?
Remember, as black people, we don't need a song to be able to fight back, to be able to defend ourselves, to be able to fight for that which belongs to us. The conditions, the hard conditions, you know, the very conditions that made your guest from AfriForum to have a farm when I don't have a farm. And I was born and bred here. I am the land. The land belongs to me. And he comes here, I had the farm and I have nothing. And then he comes, he tells me I can't sing my song when I want to fight for a food sovereignty, when I actually want to fight to make sure that what belongs to me comes to me. In fact, today we are being forced to sing Distem. There is a song. It's a hate speech. That song, Distem, it's hate speech. It is, in fact, a song that is responsible for our landlessness, the raping of our mothers and our sisters, you know, our death. For us being in the shacks now, we are now using pit toilets. That's the song that is responsible for that.
Yeah. Dr. Ngwane, it's confusing that courts would come out. I mean, you've already mentioned the fact that it's unfortunate that this is being fought in the courts. But the courts in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, maybe earlier than that, came out and said that it is hate speech. The same court today, it's saying it's not hate speech and could not be taken in its literal sense. This, of course, in a sense, giving AfriForum that confidence to say, if we challenge this, it certainly is going to be found in our favor. Are other courts adding to the confusion?
Well, it's possible because, I mean, judges, you know, are human beings and they might interpret the law in different ways. But remember, judges are trying to address real social problems, as Ernst is saying, you know, it's not a theory. And I think judges also take into account something called intentions. And then often, you know, because human intention can be all over the show, they will try and pin it down to principles such as causality. And indeed, in this instance, I think the judge, you know, quoted statistics of 2%, whatever, to show that there is no direct connection. But I think, Thabo, the best place or the best approach is not a narrowly legalistic one. I think the question is, what is the AfriForum and my comrade over there and myself, all of us trying to achieve? Are we trying to build a more just, a more equal, a happier society? Or are we trying to whip up emotions so that, in this instance, a criminal problem is attributed to one group, whereby I think the Afrikaner community is made to feel under siege, as if it is being singled out, when in fact crime, I mean, women are dying every day. Even this idea of you know, let's take who are the people being attacked every day these days? The so-called illegal immigrants, you know. So what I'm trying to say is that, you know, we should ask Ernst, where is AfriForum wanting to take the Afrikaner community? Does it want to take it to the future or to the past? You know, because as far as I know, I mean, I was in a march, in a big march on Wednesday. I mean, firstly, no one sang that song. Secondly, all the songs were really about, you know, people's needs, living wage, things like that. And personally, I'm a comrade, you know, I do joy, and I don't harbor any of those feelings or hatreds which Ernst is attributing, I think perhaps in a blanket fashion, to the black population. And I don't even believe that Julius Malema himself thinks that way. So I'm just saying, let's not approach it too narrowly legalistically, but let's look at the moral, political objective. Our vision is to create a better society.
Yeah. Ernst, concern being expressed here, emerging from the conversation, that you could be pushing a narrow view, emerging certainly from a point of wanting to protect your particular privilege or the privilege of the group that you represent, and that in itself not taking us into a healing kind of environment, rather a more polarized environment.
Yeah, well, I'd like to answer that, and I will, but I just want to say quickly that I would love for your guest to tell me more about this so-called farm that I own. So please, when it's his turn to speak, ask him to elaborate, because he stated that I own a farm and he doesn't. So I'd love to hear more about that. Secondly, to go back to the question, here's the tragic thing about the public discourse in this country at the moment. So we have the third largest political party, with a leader who's one of the most famous politicians in the country and even in the continent, who goes onto public platforms. He makes speeches saying things like all white people are criminals. So he singles out a community based on the color of their skin, and he says they have to be treated like criminals. He says we have to slit the throat of whiteness. He says if you see a farm that belongs to a white person, go out and take it, it's yours. Then he bursts into song and he sings kill the boer, kill the farmer. He sings shoot to kill. He sings shoot the boer. He sings that the boers are rapists, they are cowards. And then the reality is also that that's actually happening, that these people are being attacked and killed. And now here comes a civil rights group saying, well, this is wrong. We can't continue down this path. We can't accept a situation where political leaders are publicly romanticizing committing genocide, because that's what Julius Malema is doing when he says, I might one day, and he said this under oath in court, that he might one day call on his supporters to actually go out and start slaughtering white people. That's what he said in court. And then the court said, no, there's no hate speech here. And now the group that says this is wrong, we need to stop this, is now accused of being oppressors and of taking us back to the past, and have to, they have to explain why, how they are contributing to social cohesion. I mean, that's any person with a brain would have to accept that this is ludicrous. This is the most bizarre situation that you can imagine yourself in. But I mean, that will not deter us. As I said, we do believe that we have a very good chance of success when we take this matter on.
It was canvassed and it was debated a little bit back and forth. From what I've listened to in that court, he did not necessarily say, he said, we are not calling for the slaughter of white people for now. I think those are the words that he used.
No. We went much farther than that. He said that he cannot pledge that he will not call on the slaughter, because he might one day call on his supporters to slaughter white people. That's what he testified under oath.
His words are said to mean, according to him, that they are not talking about an individual or a particular race, but they're talking about a system of oppression.
Whatever. He's still saying, he literally said, I might one day call on my supporters to go out and slaughter white people. So, I mean, we can say, no, it doesn't really mean that. Adolf Hitler didn't really mean that when he said that we must slaughter the Jews. In Rwanda, they didn't really mean it. It was just a metaphor when they said the Tutsis are cockroaches and they have to be stamped out and they have to be exterminated. Don't worry, it's just a metaphor. I mean, we've seen this story. I mean, we've seen it not only in Nazi Germany and in Rwanda, we've seen it in Anatolia, we've seen it in Kosovo, we've seen it in East Timor, we've seen this story over and over again. And we can have this argument about this just being a metaphor and don't take it seriously. The reality is that people are being attacked and killed. I mean, I can just go down the list of people who I know who have been attacked or people I knew who have been murdered. I mean, I've had a family member who died when they first stoned her and then they pierced a garden fork through her head. It was an elderly lady who was family of mine. And now people can try to tell me, no, this is just a metaphor, give people their freedom of expression. People are actively encouraging violence and genocide, and us having a problem with that somehow makes us the oppressor. I mean, that's ridiculous.
I still have not gotten the answer to the question. What are your intentions?
What are our intentions? Our intentions is for the call to violence to stop. That's the crux of it.
But the question was more, are your intentions and the intended intentions in how you're acting meant to heal and unify people or to polarize them further?
So somehow I have to explain how we don't want to polarize people when we don't want people to sing kill the boer, kill the farmer, when farmers are actually being killed and murdered on their farms. I think you should ask this question to the EFF and to the people defending the EFF. How are they trying to heal society? We're not calling for violence. We're saying that people should stop calling for violence. How's that polarizing society?
And in your view, and that Nelvis, I mean, the call by itself to stop singing the song, it seems the ANC at some point also decided, I'm still to read that statement, to say they will not sing this song again in the future. Do you think that was a move towards unifying the nation?
It's capitulationist. It's selling out. It's very tame. It's very tame. There is no hope. If you have people who are said to be our leaders for whom we vote, and then who can do that, just sell out our struggle heritage like that, it's hopeless. Now, look, it's the upper limit of naivety, really, that we have to be sitting here, sit in the courts and try and explain to white people, to racists, that our songs are not literal. Now, look, during our times, we used to sing the song, you sang that song too. The song, Amabulu Azizinja, white people are dogs. That was never meant literally. We meant that as a reference to the system, and that the system, the way they were treated us as black people, they could not be referred to as human beings. They were dogs in that sense until they stopped what they were doing. So there's no way. I mean, even if you're looking at somebody telling us that white farmers are being treated this way, violence and so on, as we are talking, we have black farm laborers being evicted. That's violence. As we are talking, that's just the other year. I mean, there was a white farmer who forced a black laborer into a coffin, alive. That's violence. I mean, you had, black laborers, being shot and killed, and they go to court, and white farmer says, no, I thought I mistook him for an animal, and they got out of court scot-free. You get. I'm talking about white farmers forcing black laborers to eat their own feces. I'm not making this up. It's happening. How can you treat anybody like that? It's a demonstration that our humanity as black people has yet to be restored. Our humanity and dignity has yet to be restored. In fact, the EFF in court did say that they did not even sing kill the farmer, kill the boer. They said they didn't do that, and the court accepted that, because they said all they did was to tone down and says kiss the farmer, kiss. And as a ZAPO, we will never tone down. We will never, because we will never kiss anybody who took our land. The person who can kiss our own people, that's all. The little love that we have and the little kiss that we have, we reserve it for our own people, not land thieves, not murderers, not people, who actually possessed, and then our farms, our minerals and everything. Right now we have to explain ourselves. We will never do that as a Zapo. The struggle continues, and we will sing this song, and we are not going to ask for permission. If we have to go to jail, we will go to jail. If we have to die, we will die singing the song as we sing it. We will not
I'm going to take a break. We'll come back in a moment, and of course the conversation continues. Your thoughts tonight, 072-110-5584. The struggle song, Dubuli Bunu, in particular, is it hate speech or is it heritage? What are your thoughts? We'll continue on that in a moment. Seconds. Back with you tonight, Joan in Focus, Newzroom Afrika, Channel 405. Conversation continues, and the question, of course, being put to you on 072-110-5584 is whether or not the struggle song, in particular, Dubuli Bunu, incites hate, or is it heritage? Others are saying these struggle songs are some of the most revered songs in the struggle history. In the mind of most black South Africans in particular, the songs of struggle are revered and respected. Still with us, Dr. Trevor Ngwane, Azanian People's Organizations, Nelvis, Qekema, as well as AfriForum Head of Policy and Action, Ernst. Roets. Dr. Ngwane, let me come back to you then. Maybe you want to respond to the question that Ernst put to you, but generally then, let's talk about whether or not this contestation of struggle heritage, even with the lyrics in some instances here being adapted, is it taking us forward in the sense of building a united democratic South Africa?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Chabo, because, you know, I've got grandchildren, so I really worry about what will happen to our country when today's adults, today's leaders are kind of pushing us along this path of actually no return, of going back to the past, reminding us constantly. Yeah, so, and my other point is, you know, what I'm finding these days in South Africa with this xenophobia, with this thing now of Dubuli Bunu, whatever, is a kind of fantasy where people are reasoning not based on evidence or their points, their imagination, you know, is not restrained by reality, but there is an emphasis or intensity of emotion, which makes me think of a kind of populism, whipping up emotions. And I really worry about organizations such as the AfriForum, because despite the freedom of association, I believe that they are self-appointed representatives of the Afrikaner community, which, in my opinion, is not a monolithic or homogeneous entity. And their arguments also homogenize black people, as I've indicated that the people I hang out myself, we have no intention of killing any human being, let alone a white person. So I'm just saying, you know, also, I think it might also be a distraction from maybe the issues, you know, Mr. Moses raising about the need to redistribute wealth, to redistribute the land. So we need a conversation about that. We shouldn't, you know, use proxy discussions about struggle songs and questioning each other's cultural heritages in order to either avoid that or defend past privileges, you know, through throwing red herrings. So that's my concern. So I'd like really an adult, mature conversation, not one based on what I think is really fantasy about black people wanting to kill white people. It's just not true. There's a lot of crime in South Africa, and it's not all directed at white people. In fact, statistics would show, because blacks are in the majority, they die the most. And in fact, most of the crime, based on police statistics, happens in predominantly black working class areas.
So, Dr. Ngwane, one would say, are you not downplaying the extent of the powerful influence on human behavior and individuals' psychological disposition that is brought on by these struggle songs?
Well, I'm not at all. I mean, I would, on another platform, another day, I would criticize maybe Mr. Malema or the FF on certain policy positions they've taken. You know, I certainly criticize the ANC because I think, you know, it's what is bringing us to where we are now, because it has failed miserably to actually help us move away from what I call racial capitalism, where there's a lot of inequality in the distribution of wealth. So those are important issues upon which, you know, emotionally loaded statements, populism thrives. But I think, you know, in these platforms, in the media, in these public debates, I think as leaders, we have a responsibility to focus on the real issues rather than whip up emotion. You know, I never had a farm. I mean, what's that got to do with anything?
Ernst, are you merely just whipping out emotions here for your particular group without addressing what these songs are resisting, or at least what they are bringing from a point of what the communities on the ground in society on the ground are struggling from, and hence they are choosing to use these songs?
You know, if I wanted to, or if you wanted me to, at least, I can start right now, and I can start reading to you the names of farmers who have been murdered in the last 20 years. And I can guarantee you I will keep you busy for more than 10 hours if I read the names and what happened to them. And that would just be the names of those who we know of and who we have confirmed. So that's the reality. Now, you can accuse AfriForum of engaging in fantasy when we're concerned about farm murders. I mean, it's bizarre. There's probably much stronger words that I can use to accuse us of engaging with fantasy when we're concerned about farm murders. I mean, we live in this community, and I'm not saying that there aren't other communities who are also victims of crime, but you know what's the difference between gender-based violence or gang-related violence or political violence or rhino poaching and all these other crime phenomena that are very serious, as opposed to farm murders? The difference is we have political leaders standing on public platforms actively romanticizing these crimes. You don't have politicians standing on platforms saying go and beat up your wife or kill the women. You don't see that. You see politicians condemning gender-based violence, even though sometimes I'm not so sure if they are serious about it. But you have politicians standing on public platforms chanting slogans about killing white people. And you know, I said to someone yesterday that if we ever wonder if we're on the right side, we can just look at the extent to which the people defending this song are prepared to blatantly lie. Like this gentleman in studio claiming that I have a farm. Like this claim that was made now that the EFF just sang Kies the Boer, Kies the Farmer. You can look at the video clips of what happened outside court. Any person with 2 ears can hear that these people are not singing Kies the Boer, Kies the Farmer. They're singing Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer, while the farmers are being attacked and killed. And now for some bizarre reason, we at AfriForum have to explain ourselves as to, aren't we just whipping up emotions when we don't want our community to be attacked and killed and tortured to death, and when we don't want politicians romanticizing, inflicting violence on our community? Somehow we are now the oppressors. I mean, that's ludicrous. It's ridiculous.
Politicians are inflicting pain on the Afrikaner community. Dr. Nelvis?
To start with, as we wage the struggle, those of us who lost their humanity, those of us who lost their dignity, those of us who lost their land, their culture, if you like, we understand that when we are in the struggle is using methods that are multifaceted. One of those is singing the song. That's our culture. For instance, when we sing these songs, we understand that in a song, what you are trying to do, you are trying to simplify the message. because you're not going to be sitting there and lecturing the community, but in a song, you can simplify the message and reduce it to something that they can immediately identify with as they are dancing and being happy. You know, at the very same time, the revolutionary song is itself a repository of our struggle heritage, you know, because in it, you know, you're able to sing it immediately, it unravels into you the emotions that the two gentlemen over there are trying to run away. The struggle is an emotional thing. It's a bloody thing. We are dying every day. And sometimes we are dying without being shot at. You know, through hunger, through starvation, you know, through everything. We die every day. So in other words, we're not going to be sitting here and lose our land, lose our humanity, lose our dignity, and still be asked to lose our songs. We will sing what we like.
But the argument here today is that there is no politician that stands on platforms that says, kill the black farmer.
Well, I don't even know if you're talking about a black farmer to start with. You know,
or kill the farmer.
No, to start with. You really have to look through your microscope to find a black farmer. I'm talking a farmer. I'm not talking about a gardener. I'm talking about a farmer, a rich farmer, commercial farmer. You really have to go around and look. You're not going to find those. In other words, also, it is foolish to think that for 400 years, we've been singing as a black people in the struggle. When we say kill the farmer, are you saying our struggle has been directed against white farmers? You must be joking. You're kidding me. The struggle, when we say the boer, we are referring to the system. When we say the boer, we are referring to those who robbed us of our land. Yeah. When we say the boer...
Semantics, metaphors, semantics. Yeah. Ultimately, there are tons, lists and lists of people. It can take us 10 hours tonight just going through the people who have been murdered because of the chanting of that slogan.
Oh, well, we chanted the slogan because we were being murdered. So the chanting of the slogan itself was the chanting of our being murdered, the genocide against black people, and we chanted the song. We chanted the song against us losing our land, and we chanted the song. And we are not going to promise you, Thabo, and anybody else that we are going to stop singing the song, because that for which we sang the song is still relevant. The song that Steve Biko sang, this song, is still relevant, and he died singing this song. And he died because through this song, he was trying to defend his life, but he died. And we are going to continue. If anybody is talking about unity, if anybody is talking about reconciliation like the two gentlemen over there, they must understand that that reconciliation, unity starts with the redistribution of our wealth. We ourselves must be on par. We are not going to be beggars in our own country and be asked to understand and be asked to be reasonable. We're not going to be reasonable about something that is unreasonable.
Yeah. Dr. Ngwane, there is a sense that there is maybe a lack of appreciation of the resistance that is still on the ground, hence the existence still of the song.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually my point, which is why I was pointing to the need for massive redistribution of wealth, which is why I define apartheid as a form of racial capitalism, which is why I put a challenge to Ernst. You know, what are AfriForum's programs to help facilitate the redistribution of wealth, to fight poverty, to ensure that, you know, the racial patterns of inequality of the past are addressed and done away with. Because if such programs are not forthcoming from AfriForum, the impression created is that when they fight against these songs, it's a proxy for defending past privileges which were ill-gotten through white supremacist, racist methods. And then also there is a sense, and it also happens, you know, among black people, especially with this xenophobia, this sense of a nostalgia about a past South Africa. So you'll hear people talk about Johannesburg was clean, but that Johannesburg is because there was a law called standing and looking, which did not allow black people to move around. So, you know, to AfriForum, the past for us was a past of suffering, was a past of racial oppression. So I think that we should really be looking at creating a future where our grandchildren can live in peace rather than, you know, whipping emotions and really not addressing the issues which can take us forward.
Let's take a break. We'll come back in a moment and wrap up this conversation. Dr. Trevor Ngwane, Azanian People's Organizations, Nelvis Qekema, as well as Ernst. He is the head of policy and action at AfriForum. We'll take your thoughts as well on 072 110 5584. Back with you tonight, Fiona in Focus, Newzroom Afrika, channel 405. Your comments coming through on 072 110 5584. Taking some tweets at Newzroom 405. Is it hate speech or is it heritage? And some of these, of course, are being reflected tonight. Here's what Qekema is saying. Hi, Thabo and the rest of the panel. I still can't believe the superiority of white people wanting to suppress the voice of black people and wanting to play victim in the process. Aluta continua. Black life matter, same as white. Right, more coming through. The song is our heritage and its reflection of our experience. The issue with those opposed to it, it's because they possess wealth they acquired through evil means, and they have fear, as Miriam Makeba's song said. White men don't sleep long, don't sleep too deep. The wealth you are having, how long will you keep? I think that's what it's supposed to say. Or howling will you keep? I'm not sure. All right, but that those are some of the messages. Those are coming through. There's 072 110 5584. You can tweet us as well at Newzroom 405. Let's wrap it up then. Ernst, let me give you those 2 minutes. I'll give all of you 2 minutes as your final wrapping thoughts. But touch on the issues that are being raised by Dr. Ngwane to say, from AfriForum's point of view, do you have a program of redress? Please unmute for us.
Apologies. Firstly, I'd love for this guy in the studio, when he closes, to just tell me some more about the farm, this alleged farm that I own. AfriForum is doing a lot of work in local communities, in traditional communities, with traditional leaders. We've gone to court with several traditional communities to get government to build the schools they promised them, to recognize their leaders and so forth. If the question is what socialist policies do we have, the answer is zero. We don't have a single policy that promotes socialism as a solution, because we know socialism has been tried aggressively, repeatedly, for the last more than a century, and it has failed everywhere it was tried, and it led to 100 million deaths. So you know, we can talk about redistribution, and probably that's another debate, but the question is, where has this ever led to prosperity? Which socialist government has ever made people more equal or more wealthy? It has never happened. But, you know, just in closing, there has always been a struggle between good and evil. We saw that with, you know, the Jews in Egypt. We saw it with the persecution of the Christians in the first few centuries after Christ. We saw that with, with Nazism. We saw it in Rwanda. But what's strange, or we should take note of, is that the oppressors, people who have committed the most evils in the history of the world, have never acknowledged that they were evil. They always framed their arguments as being morally correct. And it's the same type of thing we have here in this country. We have people actively encouraging violence to be inflicted upon minority communities, romanticizing murder and torture, making jokes about slaughtering people, about committing genocide, chanting, kill the boer, kill the farmer, shoot to kill, these dogs are rapists, and all of these things. And now they claim to be the victims when people say that this is not acceptable. And yes, I mean, I'm not going to convince someone like this guy who's in the studio right now, and we know that, because it's not it's never been really possible to convince evil people that they are in fact evil. But the fact of the matter is, we will not be deterred. We will keep fighting against this injustice, and we will keep fighting against this evil.
Nelvis, Qekema, you respond to that? Yeah,
this guy
strong word. You called you an evil person, in a sense, and you'll never be able to convince you.
As Satan calling God an evil person. Now, this guy says he will not convince me. What does he want me to convince me for? Because I'm not in any conversation with him. All I need from him is my land. I need my farm back from him. I'm not going to be a laborer in his farm.
He says he doesn't own a farm. Which
he
farm does he own?
Owns a farm. He belongs to a community that owns a farm. He owns a farm. I don't own a farm because I belong to a community that was robbed of its farm by this gentleman and his people. So I'm going to stop singing the song, Double Bono, Inazapo, and Black People. We will carry on. We don't want to be taught for them, by them what to do. In fact, this song is a call to action, and we must continue singing it. Now, a fascist, a white supremacist like him, coming here, teaching, trying to teach us, lecture us about socialism and all that, what moral standing does he have? This AfriForum of his is everywhere, using their resources to chase and haunt black people, taking us to court for whatever we do. We have no right to do whatever we do because they still have the resources. Because after 28 years, the face of poverty is still black. After 28 years, unemployment is black. After 28 years, we are the people who are still using,
to the point, as he says, exactly. That means, is you're saying it's a call to action. Call to what action?
It is a call to action to force this country to understand that there are people, black people, who have been robbed of their land, and we need the redistribution of the land. And we're not going to rest, because the statistics will show you that the land of this country is still owned by them. Statistics will show you the wealth of this country is still owned by by this gentleman and his family.
Let's leave it here
80% of our wealth.
Completely out of time. Dr. Ngwane, let me give you the last minute or so. Ernst says they are running programs with traditional leaders in rural areas, but if you're asking them whether they have a socialist program, they've got zero, and they don't believe in that, and they'll never have one.
It's okay. We can agree to disagree, because I'm a socialist, and I identified apartheid as a form of capitalism which was based on racism and white supremacy. But of course, there are in between social systems like social democracy, where perhaps AfriForum and people like me can find each other. But I'm just concerned that he didn't answer the question of AfriForum being the self-appointed representative of the Afrikaner community, which I think he is homogenizing and actually is stereotyping as the boer, the farmer, when in fact, this is what he is arguing against. So I think that it's better for us to find ways of finding each other, not look to the past, but look to the future, and think about a future which we can be proud to live our grandchildren, which is a peaceful, socially just South Africa.
Nelvis Qekema, Azanian People's Organization of South Africa, Dr. Trevor Ngwane joining us on the line there, apartheid activist, and the head of policy and action at AfriForum, Ernst. Appreciate your time and thank you very much for coming on, and thank you for engaging with us tonight on 072 110 5584.